Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program, where today we are going to be looking at the tobacco industry, Zimbabwe's new frontier, tobacco beneficiation through cut rag and cigarette manufacturing. Today we are going to be having a range of guests who have graced our platform, where I'm joined by three experts, three gentlemen, beginning with Floorboy Chilufia. He is with Pacific Tobacco with 20 years experience in cigarette manufacturing, anchored in tobacco blending. We also have Tapiwa Masedza. He is the executive director of Chevron Tobacco here in Zimbabwe. We also have Hubert Nyambuya, who is a member of the sitting committee local content strategy under the Ministry of Industry, Commerce here in Zimbabwe. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us today, gentlemen. And it is an honor to be speaking to you with regards to tobacco beneficiation and value addition. I would like to take this question without further ado to you, Tapiwa Masedza, Mr. Masedza. We cannot ignore the importance of having a robust financial system which is sustainable as well as effective. With regards to financing, what are your sentiments? Where are we as an economy, as a country, as an industry?
Let me start by looking at the issue of financing. But for us then to go straight into the financing, when we are talking about the beneficiation and value addition, possibly we need then to understand exactly what we are talking about. So my first say will be like, we are looking at the global tobacco value, which is sitting at about 1.3 trillion. Mm-hmm. Zimbabwe is contributing in terms of its exports, the quantum of the tobacco, probably is contributing something around 5%. But its share, its contribution in terms of the value, is less than 0.2%. So this is a clear indication that Zim is not there in terms of beneficiation and value addition. What is it that Zim is not doing so that it is there? So when Ambassador Mtanga was talking about, he was talking about the markets. China is the biggest global consumer of cigarettes. So if you take out China, what are the markets that are remaining there? So we are talking about Indonesia, you are talking about Egypt, you are talking about the Middle East, you are talking about the Americas. But if you are to look at beneficiation outside China, where is this happening? Where is this tobacco going? So if we don't do a comparative analysis of what is happening in UAE, we'll be missing the point. UAE doesn't produce any single leaf of tobacco, but we have got 60 to 80 companies that are manufacturing cigarettes in UAE. They are doing cut rag, and they are exporting the cut rag in cigarettes from UAE, yet they don't produce any single leaf. This now entails that Zim, from a policy point of view, we need to visit our policy framework so that it is conducive for manufacturers to then say, we can come to Zimbabwe, we can manufacture the cut rag, we can do the cigarette and export from Zimbabwe. If we don't do that, if we are not competitive to the level of UAE, we should not be talking about the beneficiation. This is where my core is. If government doesn't participate into this, I don't think Philip Morris is going to come here and put millions of dollars to put a factory here. But Mutapa Investment Fund should be there as a leading investor, as an anchor investor, to de-risk the investments in the manufacturing. They put the infrastructure, they can actually be able then to say, let's be in partnership, JV, with Eastern Tobacco. Eastern Tobacco in Egypt is the biggest tender, offering tender company, which is owned, it's a monopoly owned by the Egyptian government. They can partner with Eastern Tobacco here in Zimbabwe, and then Zim can have access to Egypt markets for cigarettes. That's number one. Number two, we need to look at the other tenders. Iran, we have left individual companies, private companies, to participate in these tenders. If you look at the Egypt Eastern Tobacco that I'm talking about, it's mainly the British American tobacco companies in Zimbabwe that are participating in the Eastern Tobacco, not the locals. Where is TMB, where is the government not consolidating that and put an entity that takes their tobacco, leverage to Eastern Tobacco, produce cigarettes here, get into the market for Eastern Tobacco, take some of the raw leaf or lamina, export it into the Eastern Tobacco. That's how we can move through the value chain. Iran is also the biggest consumer, but it's a monopoly. Private companies, they've participated there. Some of the private companies, the Anglo-Saxon, they've actually withdrawn the Alliance One, Universal Leaf, because of these international sanctions. The private companies here in Zimbabwe, they've failed to participate and deliver accordingly to the Iran. But we have got Mtapa Investment Fund that can actually say, yes, we can put an entity that can buy tobacco from Zimbabwe, process it, get a tender in Iran. Iran, we supply with lamina, but we also want a quota where we manufacture cigarettes from Zimbabwe. We export to your market. We can now move through the line. It's not only Iran, it's also Lebanon. It's a monopoly. You go through tenders. Individual companies, they've messed up those tenders. We need to de-risk through the Mtapa Investment Fund, and the government has to take a leading role in financing this beneficiation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maseza, for giving us a passionate and well-detailed presentation where it was anchored on issues surrounding markets. Speaking of market research, looking at issues surrounding product development and how as Zimbabwe we can be in line with the desires of the consumers who are the markets. There you heard it, viewers. We are still having this discussion, anchoring it on financing that is sustainable, at the same time effective to ensure that value addition and beneficiation in the tobacco industry takes off. We attract investors. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Now, viewers, encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, so 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions that are almost welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter, and our profile there is at Agribusiness 110. On LinkedIn, we have a growing, thriving community where we have these discussions. Our profile there is at Wadzanai Manyore. We're going to cross over and have our panel discussion. Stay tuned. I'm going to take this to you, Bet Nyambuya. Looking at policies, what would you want to see happening, or what would you want to see take place with regards to policies which support, which incentivize, which bring markets to Zimbabwe?
I come here wearing several hats. The most prominent one, which I'll apply in this deliberation, evolves around the local content committee, the strategic body, which is looking at transformation of all key sectors. Key sectors, and when I mean key sectors, tobacco, pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, the automotive industry. It's a huge, massive industry. We are involved in a lot of programs in the automotive industry. Why I'm referencing all these aspects is to try and define the direction which Zimbabweans can partake and participate in to ensure that we have value addition. The reason we need to value add on all our produce is we are losing a lot of money every year from the industry. We've established that we need to set up manufacturing processes, not in Zimbabwe, but outside Zimbabwe, controlled by Zimbabweans. i.e., one particular model I gave to one of the investors in the tobacco industry in Zimbabwe has gone up to set a plant in South Africa. So essentially what we need is process our tobacco up to Catrec, including the lamina. Then we develop market-specific products. I was recently in Brussels looking at the pricing model around the cigarettes being sold in Brussels. You are talking €15 for the cheapest, a brick, up to 55 euro. And then when I gave one of my guys to do the cost analysis, our farmer is losing money. How are they losing money? We are selling 1 kg, the highest amount of the auction floor, I think, was about $4, $4.99 per kg. Per kg. Brick refugee money. Today, the most expensive brand.
So 7, 8.
Right. How much are we losing as a country? Just in the tobacco. So our proposition under the local content committee is to say that we need to participate at government level. So it's engaging the government of the EU, it's engaging the government of Iran, it's engaging China to say the 85% we are exporting is raw. Can we pick the 85% and characterize it with a PMD and an SMD in China, in Brussels, in Doha?
Yeah.
We process that on a Zimbabwe-owned plant. We feed into that plant from here, Zimbabwe to Zimbabwe. We engage Zimbra and the finance treasury to see if we can bow that together so that there's no transfer pricing, but we generate more revenue at the end. Zimbabwe cannot be poor in terms of forex. We should not be crying about forex as a country. The capacity to generate forex is there. We've got Zimbabweans sitting in South Africa, sitting in Europe, developing the latest technology on motor vehicles. As an example, my components are about motor 45 to 50,000 of them. But when I say Zimbabweans in Africa, each and every one of us can make a contribution. You go get a disc about motor, you go get a hub chassis from Malaysia. You can set up a plant to get a chassis and motor. How much is government spending every year importing cars? Do we know? These are the critical things that we need to interrogate. In the last 3 years, Zimbabwean government has spent over $1 billion importing cars. That $1 billion could be used to develop a car here. The $1 billion tobacco that we're talking about from the auction floors, I feel we're bleeding ourselves. This economy could generate $40 billion per annum from tobacco. And those are numbers that we've calculated. Those are numbers that we've got. For now, I think I'll stop there.
Welcome back, viewers. You are watching Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, and we would have done an injustice to the Zimbabwe agriculture industry or even our gross domestic product as an economy if we overlook the contribution, the immense contribution of the tobacco industry. We're going to go into this segment and look at how, as Zimbabwe and as the industry, we can continue to contribute to the developments and the strategies and the goals that are being set by our line ministry. Stay tuned. I'm going to come over to you, Flobo Ichilefia. I would like us to touch briefly on issues surrounding investment. What could be those risks that you would want to demystify and the misconceptions around having businesses in Zimbabwe?
Thank you so much, Wazanai, and thank you so much for all the participants and all protocols observed. Yes, what you have said is quite encouraging, and we know, all of us seated here, that Zimbabwe produces one of the best crops in the world. So one thing you might know is that most of these investors outside, they may not believe in what we do. But I would like to assure you that Zimbabwe has got the best blenders around. Our crop is one of the best. from the bottom part of the plant, from the lugs to the tip, you find the flavor is all there. So we are capable of actually blending our tobacco to the right taste which is acceptable everywhere in the world. In other countries, you would be, I would be sure to know that, they buy tobacco from Zimbabwe, take it to their countries and blend it with their local tobaccos. Why? Because they cannot afford to manufacture cigarettes from their own crop. Zimbabwe is one country where you can take all styles of tobacco, blend it to the right perfection, and we have got the capability and the capacity to do this. I heard that from the mentioning what the director was saying, that we've got over 10 cigarette companies. You can see the enthusiasm and the excitement which is there already in the market. For people to start exploring our market from outside means that they have seen something in our crop which is undisputable. What we do, we make these cigarettes to the right expertise, and we have had so much inquiries from external guys from outside the country who wanted to partner with us. But mostly the challenge has been that they want to partner and make the cigarettes from their own countries to come and distribute in Zimbabwe. But we have been saying, no, this is not supposed to be done. We have got the expertise, we have the technical know-how, of which we can make our own cigarette and export to your local countries. We have partnered with a Chinese company. We have been making high-end cigarettes and they are very happy. But of course the offtake has been not as encouraging as we would like to be. Our levels of investment in our factories are top-notch. If you see some of the cigarettes which we produce for the local market, of course you'll be wondering that why don't we be at that level like for example, the cigarette made in Europe. We can do that. It's only that our local market prefers to have what we can afford and at that price. But for the high-end consumers, like those in China, they've given us some specifications which we have done, even exceeded their expectations. And then the other thing is that, our local industry in terms of cigarette production here is favored a lot. Apart from the wide range of tobacco variants which are grown in Zimbabwe, we use our local merchants, we use our local facilities in the PMD, which also produces the high quality catrack, which is comparable to anywhere else in the world. And this has been proven because for the people who come to buy here the tobacco, they take it to the GLTs, they take it to the processing facilities, PMD, they export catrack. But however, most of the catrack which is exported actually should have been converted into cigarettes here. But for reasons best known to them, they prefer to take raw and manufactured cigarette tobacco, make cigarettes, and want to come and also enter our market, which we are capable of fulfilling. Technology-wise, in terms of our factory, we are there. I can tell you are top-notch. We have got advanced machinery, German-made machines, which can do all sorts of configurations. And you would like to see, you would like to have an opportunity maybe to come and pass by Pacific. We show you what we can do. We can do miracles and wonders. And then on the opportunities again which exist for our markets here. In most of the world, like American, for example, they like making American blended cigarettes. Blended cigarettes of American taste consists of Virginia tobacco, Belly tobacco, and some Oriental. At one time, Zimbabwe used to grow a sizable amount of Belly tobacco. Somehow, I don't know, the prices were not encouraging, they dumped it. But I would like to tell you that most of the cigarettes and the market which you have in Zimbabwe is of an American blended nature. So what do? There's a gap here. We don't grow our own Belly. So we import Belly from Malawi and Tanzania. So there lies in an opportunity for farmers to take up this challenge, actually. So because most of the cigarettes which we make here, which are liked by our consumers, are American blended cigarettes. So we now call them modified cigarettes because we don't put Belly. Because we used to grow Belly a lot, somehow it phased out. And we used to grow a small crop of Oriental, somewhere in Gutu there. We stopped for some reason, I don't know. And Belly and the Oriental tobacco are very, very high valued crop, which are blended into Virginia, which you don't do. So there lies an opportunity for our farmers to take up this challenge. and sell to the local cigarette manufacturers, which are willing to buy this. So they go to an extent of going to Malawi and going to Tanzania to import the bane.
Thank you so much, Florboy, for that. My key takeaways from what you've just said: we do have the comparative advantage, we do have the competitive advantage, we do have the human capital resources, we have top-notch blenders. You can do miracles. But I'm going to bring this to you, Mr. Masenza.
Thank you, Wazanai, for that. Let me pick it up from Mr. Cholofia there. So we need to have a policy clarity, and we need to package and brand Zimbabwe so that we are known of what we can offer, not only the leaf, not only the lamina, but to some extent we can provide a conducive environment where manufacturers can come in and they can do cataract, they can do cigarettes. In America, let me give you an example with America. I've got a client, and I was in a discussion with him, and he was telling me, look, I would rather prefer manufacture cigarettes in America, because the fiscal incentives and the regulatory incentives which are there for me to manufacture in America, they are far much better than in South Africa and Zimbabwe. I'll tell you this, you can produce a master case at around 40 to 50 USD. You can confirm with Mr. Cholofia. So, is Zimbabwe able to do that? Maybe he can also confirm the cost of him to produce one master case here. They've got what they call jute drawbacks, where you are allowed to import any other component of the cigarette. Wherever it is, you can import Oriental from Italy to America for as long as you are using it for the production of cigarettes that you are going to export. You are not charged jute for that. There's a clarity, it's very clear to the manufacturers. It's not like here, when we ask people here, the audience here, do we have that? People, they'll say, maybe, we don't know, we need to check with the Zimra. That shows that there is no policy clarity. Investors, they don't want that. So we need to package Zimbabwe so that it's very clear. In as much as we want to go to 30% on beneficiation, we might not get there. Probably that 5% that we can add, we need to have policy clarity, so that the cost of producing a master case is lower. This is the reason why the investors cannot come in here. You cannot have a secret JTI for it to come here, or to produce a blend that can compete with a JTI 7 stars. You need Oriental. We don't have Oriental here. It has to come from Italy. It has to come from Macedonia. And when it comes here, are you going to get a jute drawback? It's not even clear.
I'd like to thank our organizers, ZimPapers, for affording us this opportunity to have pertinent discussions which speak to issues surrounding our economy and the importance of participation of Zimbabwe organizers and Zimbabwean companies in beneficiation and value addition. My name is Wazanai Manyore. I would like to thank those who are joining me on this platform. Thank you so much for listening. There you had it, Zimbabwe. Today we're looking at the tobacco industry of our economy, where we're having various experts converging and speaking to us in line with the strategies, the goals that are setting to ensure that the industry remains in existence, being viable, being sustainable, uplifting livelihoods. It was a pleasure having you with us today. From me, your host was Naima Nyura. I'm also on Instagram. It's at YZ110, and the crew behind the scenes. Thank you for watching.